Coast guards around the UK are stepping up their searches in light of reports of migrants trying to sneak into Britain by boat. RT's Polly Boyko previously told us about the increasing concern in the UK about the situation.
It's starting to become a very similar situation to that seen in the Mediterranean. And my biggest fear is that the same kind of tragedies we see in Greece or Italy will start to repeat in the Channel.
Smugglers looking for new ways to get people into the country.
In every way, every position, every situation, every way we can go, we go.
Security has been stepped up in major ports around the country. Human traffickers are now targeting smaller ones.
That's the ferry that comes in daily from Dieppe in France. There's no visible border security checking the trucks as they offload.
They don't have enough facilities.
It doesn't take a lot to come through the Channel.
Well, Polly has now travelled to a French port to find out what boat owners have to say about the rising number of migrants so eager to get to the UK.
In France's picturesque port of Dieppe, local boat owners are getting some fishy business proposals.
Often they come and ask if we're going to England, and we've been offered up to €2,500 per person to take them to England. We don't want to take them. It's frightening. You imagine a boat like this, it takes 100 people, multiplied by €2,500. It's a temptation, of course, but it's human trafficking. No.
Eddie, who works for a boat rental firm, says he'd never do it, but there are those who are tempted. Since security around ferry ports tightened, smugglers and illegal immigrants wanting to get to Britain have adapted to make the perilous crossing themselves.
Eddie's agreed to take us out on his boat so we can get a taster of what that dangerous journey across the Channel entails.
We also learn how smugglers evade the authorities.
See, there's a green light over there. That means that the boat is allowed to leave the port. So any of the boats coming in and out of this port need to talk to the local Coast Guard and explain what they're doing and that they're leaving and coming back. So smugglers are going to be looking for beaches that aren't being watched.
And once we're outside the port, a visible reminder of just how far Europe's migrant crisis is spreading.
That's the camp that houses about 150 illegal Albanian immigrants now, and they're all trying to get to Britain illegally.
From here, it's about 120 kilometres to the nearest British beach. From Calais, the crossing would be about a quarter of that distance, but it's also policed more heavily there. That's why the traffickers are moving on. But it's as dangerous as it is expensive. A clandestine boat trip to England can cost as much as flying first class.
Well, Eddie's approaching exactly the type of beach that smugglers are said to be exploiting here on this stretch of northern France, because it's not surveyed by the authorities, so boats, even as large as this one, can approach the sand, pick up illegal immigrants and set off on that journey across the Channel.
There are hundreds of beaches like this, stretching all the way down the French coast.
In 30 seconds, I could be on the beach, so the people would only get a tiny bit wet getting in.
Eddie tells us that even sailing boats are easy targets for traffickers because you don't need a license to own one.
Well, even if you can afford the journey, it's not exactly a pleasure cruise. The weather conditions in the Channel are notoriously difficult. They can change in a minute's notice. And you've got one of the busiest shipping lanes to contend with in the world. So getting to the other side alive, if you're in an inflatable raft or a small boat, is by no means guaranteed.
But there is one thing making things easier for the illegal boats that manage to cross to the British side. Right now, the UK Border Force has just 3 vessels patrolling its coast. That could be all the temptation needed for yet more refugees to risk drowning while trying to get to Britain. Polly Boyko, RT, Northern France.